Okay, good afternoon to everyone except Diane. Oh, there may be some other West Coast people that's still morning for them, or even Mountain. No, Mountain is now afternoon. So in any case, good morning or afternoon. We're glad to see everyone here. We're excited to see a great turnout, and we're looking forward to an exciting discussion with Marilyn Strutchens from Auburn University and Mohammed Kazi from Tuskegee University, talking about diversifying the voices at the table. Next slide is, I think we're all pretty comfortable with being on Zoom, given that we spent several years of our lives doing this. But just remember, if you have questions or comments, you can do that in the chat box, and I don't think we have that big of a group that this should be a big issue. Okay, the next slide is just a reminder that this is the January NICCast, and this is a monthly webinar, more of an interactive meeting to share ideas and communities learned and to build our community. And this is primarily related to MTEP 2.0. And so we'll go on to the next slide. Is the purpose of the NICCasts is just to build familiarity with aspects of the NICCast change and research process, and to engage in some helpful information that will support you as you're working to improve your preparation of secondary mathematics teachers, and again, to build that community and shared vision. With that being said, I will turn it over to Marilyn and Mohammed, and we look forward to a good discussion.
Thank you, Gary. And so I'd like to share our agenda for today. We'll have the goal of the session, then we'll actually give you an example of a PWI, HBCU, and school districts partnership. And then we'll have discussion questions among us, and then connections to the MTEP 2.0 AIM, and then some announcements from MTEP 2.0. And so in this session, we will discuss how pooling the resources of MSIs and PWIs can lead to more substantial and sustainable changes in secondary mathematics teacher education, especially in increasing the diversity of teacher candidates and the opportunities for teacher candidates to interact with faculty members and school-age students from a variety of cultural backgrounds. So now I'd like to share, Mohammed and I would like to share with you a partnership example. So years ago, Mohammed and I were both a part of Transforming East Alabama Mathematics, also known as Team Math, also known as the East Alabama Partnership for the Improvement of Mathematics Education. And Team Math was a partnership of 14 districts: Auburn University, Tuskegee University, and Tuskegee University. And we also had some other business partners as well. Over 1,600 teachers received professional development from the project, which included summer institutes and quarterly follow-up meetings. We also had teacher leaders, both in the schools and at the district level. And we use what Spillane called distributed leadership. Throughout the partnership, we had tons of committees in order to make the partnership run effectively. And on each of the committees, we had at least 2 representatives from grades K through 12 partners, 2 teachers or a teacher and an administrator, at least 2 mathematicians, at least 2 mathematics teacher educators, and our graduate students. This structure enabled us to keep the school's needs and goals in mind as we advocated for change in their schools and across the districts. And you can see below our motto, and we actually had t-shirts with our logo and our motto on it. It says, it's not just what you teach, but it is how you teach. And our mission is to enable all students to understand, utilize, communicate, or our mission was to enable all students to understand, utilize, communicate, and appreciate mathematics as a tool in everyday situations in order to become lifelong learners and productive citizens by transforming East Alabama mathematics, team math. And we actually had our members to state our mission statement at every meeting or event that we had so that this would be foremost on our minds. Gary, did you have a question or a concern?
No, I was just going to say, I saw one of those t-shirts over winter break when I was out walking, but I didn't get close enough to see who it was, but I still see them now and again in the grocery store or out walking.
And team math has been over for about how many years? About 4 or 5 years, and people are still wearing the t-shirts. So, and so now I'll tell you that we had, as you can see, we had PD for over 1,600 teachers. And so we had a lot of different kinds of events, as I mentioned, but one of the favorite events that we had was the Tuskegee Conference. And I'll let Mohammed tell you about that since he was the major organizer for the conference.
Well, thank you very much, Marilyn, and good afternoon, everyone. So the Tuskegee Conference was organized by the MTE-Partnership. It was held annually at Tuskegee University. And the theme of the conference was chosen very intentionally. We were very purposeful. It was designed to bring both math educators and mathematicians more closely together to promote the mathematical preparation of teachers. And during the conferences, we had discussions about various topics related to mathematics education, in particular issues of recruitment and retention of math teachers, and also learning about best practices from different individuals about different strategies they're trying to improve the teaching and learning of mathematics in their schools or in their colleges. And it was also a great way to build community amongst the different stakeholders in mathematics education in our region.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed.
You're welcome.
And then he'll also talk about our Team Math Summer Math Academy.
So, the Summer Academy of Math was an evidence-based enrichment program in mathematics for rising 9th and 10th graders in Macon County. And just to give a little bit of context, Macon County is this county which is immediately around Tuskegee University. And it is one of the poorest counties in the United States. And so back in 2009, the Macon County School District contacted the MTE-Partnership. They asked us to provide some job-embedded professional development for their teachers using some of the team math strategies. And then the idea was for the teachers in turn to provide inquiry-based instructions to the students whom you see on the screen. And the main topic was proportional reasoning. And the resources that the teachers used were those advocated by TMAT, such as CMP and IMP curricula in a cooperative learning setting. This was a 5-week program. First week was the professional development for the teachers, and the last 4 weeks was the actual intervention with the students. And one of the students actually presented her testimonials about her participation in the Academy at the 2009 TMAT conference. So there are many, many broader impacts that emerged out of this one intervention. Marilyn, please.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. And you can see that the students in that picture were making origami birds. We had just talked about Sadako and the 1,000 paper cranes. And I was the one that led that particular session. And we all have fun trying to help the teachers to help the students fold those birds. And another part of our team math partnership a part of it initially was developing teacher leaders both in the schools and at the district levels. But then we were also fortunate to receive 2 grants to sponsor the Team Math Teacher Leader Academy. And in our Teacher Leader Academy, we had both secondary teachers and elementary teachers. And many of the teacher leaders who participated in the Team Math Academy were from the schools that were from our districts and were already teacher leaders within their districts who wanted to get higher degrees. And then also we felt like if we provided the teachers with the Team Math Teacher Leader Academy, that we would be able to sustain the work that we have begun with Team Math over time. And so we had 12 secondary teachers to complete the program. Most of them received master's degrees, and some of them had like 18 hours beyond the master's degrees so that they would be able to teach at a community college as well as teach in the high schools. We had at least 3 to complete PhDs in our program, and then we had 21 elementary teachers to receive specialist degrees. And then one of the things that we did throughout the Team Math project is that we had a seminar. It initially started out as math education and mathematics seminars in order for the math teacher educators and mathematicians to be on the same page when we were working with the teachers, and also so that we could understand each other in terms of the terminology we used in working with the teachers and our goals that we had for our teachers. Then eventually it evolved into a STEM seminar where we had science educators participating with our program, as well as physics from across campus. And so in this picture, you see some of the people who participated in the seminar over the years, as well as some of the events that took place related to the seminar. We also, when Team Math was over, we developed Team Math and MTE Professional Mathematics Learning Community. MTE is the Alabama initiative for improving science and mathematics teaching and learning. It is called the Alabama Mathematics Science and Technology Initiative. And we, members of the Team Math Project, partnered with MTE to develop mathematics learning communities. And we did that work from 2011 to 2018. And then in continuation with our work, when we started with the Math Teacher Education Partnership, we developed the Central Alabama Mathematics Teacher Education Partnership. And we invited Tuskegee again to be one of our partners. In the picture, you see Loretta Garrett, who has retired from Tuskegee, but she was also one of our graduates from Auburn University. And but we also have other partners in the Central Alabama Mathematics Teacher Education Partnership, including districts and other HBCUs, and also the Alabama Mathematics Science and Technology Initiative at Auburn University and the East Alabama Regional In-Service Center in Auburn. In 2018, we were able to bring back a lot of our teachers who participated over the years. Some of them were teacher leaders, some of our graduate students, and you can see Muhammad in the picture looking pensive, really thinking about what's going on. But it was a really nice celebration. We were able to bring Pat Campbell to come back and greet us. She was one of the persons that kind of helped us decide on developing the Team Math Partnership. So, so you can see that this has been a long partnership, which actually Team Math started in 2003. And many of us are still working together today. We recently applied for a Noyce fellowship grant for initial certification. It's a master's degree program. It's a 14-month program. And Muhammad has been very involved with working with us, as well as his partners at Tuskegee, to help us recruit students and to help us really think about how to engage other HBCUs and other universities around the state in our initiative, as well as some of the districts surrounding Tuskegee University. And again, with MTEP 2.0, we are still moving forward with the Central Alabama Mathematics Teacher Education Partnership, and Tuskegee is a very instrumental partner in our partnership. And again, we're very happy with the way things are going. And I want to say too, like, our partnership has been very bi-directional. We have benefited from Tuskegee being a part of our group, as well as Tuskegee has benefited from working with us. And I'll let Muhammad tell you about the latest happening between Auburn University and Tuskegee University.
Thank you, Marilyn. So what I know about this is that this is a very significant agreement between the two institutions, Auburn University and Tuskegee University, to collaborate on community outreach activities. And in particular, these are programs that we will develop to address social inequities in the state. In particular, as regards to lack of access to health, uniform access to health, and also lack of access to education uniformly across the districts. So this is just getting off the ground. I think the MOU was signed back in November, and I think the programs will slowly start emerging out of this initiative.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad.
You're welcome.
And you can see, like, over the years, a lot of our engagement with Tuskegee University and Auburn University has been faculty-led. And now it has moved up to the administrative levels. And so we're hoping that our relationships will continue to grow, and that we together will be able to improve, especially secondary mathematics teacher education in East Alabama and the surrounding areas. And so what we're focusing on today is how do we enhance our relationships between different types of universities and between universities who are the same, who have the same structures. How do we increase our partnerships so that we can leverage the strengths that each of us bring to the table? And so I wanted to define some of the different institutions that we are working with. When we talk about minority serving institutions, those include historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges. And they serve, and when we think about like the kind of recognition that they get, they serve at least 1/3 of all African-American, Hispanic, and American Indian students enrolled in higher education in the United States today. And this comes from the Alliance for Equity in Higher Education. And then while representing a small fraction of the higher education landscape, MSIs graduate a substantial number of underrepresented minorities in STEM, due in part to the philosophical underpinnings that inform student-centered practices in MSIs. And then furthermore, according to Marchitello and Trinidad, MSIs have a historic mission to serve communities of color, as well as a long track record of preparing teachers to provide high-quality education to students of color, and are in a unique position to offer important lessons for preparing teacher candidates to serve in our increasingly diverse K-12 schools. And what we would like to talk about today is how do we increase the partnerships across different universities, MSIs included. And then also even within MSIs, how do we increase the partnerships that they have in order to help us to increase the number of well-started beginning teachers in secondary mathematics teacher education? So in the next following minutes, this is the format that we will take. Each breakout room will discuss the same questions and place responses on the Jamboard for their breakout room. So we're hoping that this discussion will last anywhere, hopefully about 5 minutes. We will come back as a whole group and discuss some of the responses, and then we will repeat this at least 4 times, hopefully. And so the first discussion question is, why is there a need for partnerships among all educational sectors? And this includes school districts, higher education institutions, and federal agencies. And then we could also add business partners to improve the educational outcomes of underrepresented students in STEM, especially secondary mathematics teacher education. So now we will move you to the breakout rooms, and we will give you a few minutes to discuss this question, and you can write your responses on the Jamboard. Okay. And Gary, did you put the information in the chat for the Jamboard? Okay. And thank you, Wendy, for placing people in the breakout rooms.
All right, everyone's back.
All right, thank you. And now we'd just like to give people an opportunity to share some of their responses to the question that you talked about in your rooms.
Dawn was in mid-sentence. Can she finish saying what she was saying?
Well, she'll have to start from the beginning of the sentence.
So when we were leaving, we were talking about the importance of having different perspectives. And so to support why we need partnerships, it's also important at the institution if there's a different demographics than at your own institution, or again, just different stakeholders across districts and higher ed. What I had mentioned, or what I was in mid-sentence about, was to say that when a student has an option, is that student going to choose to be a math teacher? And if they have the option to go into a different field, will they choose math education? And I feel like sometimes we need that our approach should be that making being a math teacher something that people will want to choose.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'll jump in to say something very similar that really I appreciated from my group. We recognize that there's just an immense untapped resource of potential math and science teachers in our schools, in our partner sites, and furthermore, in our mathematics classrooms at our universities. So the partnership with the mathematicians is critical as well. And I think I'm saying mostly what was just said.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? So it's just like we all need to work together to make teaching something that students will want to become a part of, or would want to choose as their profession. And so how do we do that collectively? Are there other comments that people make?
my thought is that the partnership with federal agencies is probably very necessary to pursue because of the inequity in funding for kids. So you need to, it helps to find outside funding, especially federal, to fill in those gaps that the budgets of urban and minority serving institutions often have. Right? Even if your university can partner with a school district, if there's no extra funding, then it just becomes extra work for them, extra work for your faculty, and it kind of falls apart a little bit. I'm just an honorary member. I show up to the equity and social justice meeting because that's an agenda item of mine. I'm not from MTEP, but Western Governors is online. We do have a few limited school district partnerships. Los Angeles Unified School District is one, but the last project we had was one of those bonus on top of regular duty, right? Instead of being well-funded by either sacrifice or donation or a federal outside, investment. So I think that's why these partnerships are so necessary, especially to generate, what we need. And NSF just got on board with their big push. So I'm really hopeful we can get something from that. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. And so we'll move on to our next question. And then this will also, if you still are thinking about the first question, you can continue that discussion as well. And so our next question is, what obstacles do you perceive exist between your institution and nearby predominantly white institutions or minority serving institutions related to forging viable bidirectional relationships? So please respond to this question as well as continue pondering on the first one. And Wendy will place you all in your breakout rooms.
All right, I think everybody made it back.
All right. And who would like to share first with your response to question number 2?
I'll share. I think we were in group 3,
Okay.
Wisconsin, Hawaii, Montana, and Alabama, Georgia. And we all were on the same kind of theme of separation. And I see some of these notes say that too. Physical separation, it's literally a few hours to even have these institutions connect, and turnover so that you can't sustain a program with the same buy-in that you began with. But I found the distance interesting, whether it's Hawaii or Wisconsin, that seems to be a challenge.
Would anyone like to build on that response or share a different response? And now with Zoom, it kind of takes away some of the distance, but I know people like to see each other face to face.
I think being Zoomed was sort of forced on everybody else. My institution's been around 25 years fully online. So it was just the flow for us, but everyone else, it was an emergency. It was horrifyingly hard. There was fear about the disease. So I think people are like, ugh, get me back to in person. I want it. But that might not actually be the best idea if you want to develop a partnership across space, right? It's easier to find someone of the same philosophy across the country than to find an institution of the same philosophy next to you. Allison was making that point. I think it's already on the board. Common mission, right? It's hard to find.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we were talking about was that, the mission is common across us because we're all trying to think about improving the quantity and quality of secondary math teachers that we're putting into the workforce. But how each institution, each institution's particular struggles are within that might be quite different. And their capacity to work within them is quite different. So, how do you choose what your initiatives are without overburdening one participant versus another? Like, how do we build on all of the strengths? And we're all being asked to do a lot right now. So that, I don't want to overburden somebody who's already being asked to be the only math educator at their institution. So figuring out what the support is I think a primary thing. It is a barrier, but it's one we can figure out how to get over. We just have to figure that out.
Thank you
Yeah,
both. Go ahead.
Oh. I was just say I kind of agree with that capacity issue. I made kind of the joke in our group that, Mohammed has been like the Energizer Bunny from Tuskegee. He, everything flows through him. There's just not the capacity. They don't have 5 people who are interested in it. And if you look at the pictures, did you notice he was in almost every picture because there's no one else to shift it to. And I think that can be a real challenge. In addition to, he was often teaching 3 or 4 classes. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of an imbalance there in terms of capacity and resources.
Other thoughts, and then we'll move on. All right, thank you. So then we'll move on to question number 3. What have you and your colleagues done to overcome barriers to engagement? So we talked about some barriers. So what have people done to overcome some of these barriers to engagement?
All right, looks like everybody's back.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Is anyone burning to share what they talked about in their room? They might volunteer.
Well, I'll
About to volunteer.
yeah. Okay. So this is Jan. I'm University of South Carolina. I'm going to speak Liza. This is Liza's idea. So I'm going to give her credit. But I think she talked about trying to, like one way to kind of cut barriers of time, right? And so really trying to overlap as best you can, like meeting times, right? So like MTEP, I think y'all have done a great job with that, putting it right in front of AMTE, right? Because most of us are going to already be like, we're already kind of giving that time for that professional time. So, and Liza spoke to that about other pieces too. And even, Allison, I'm calling out my group members, so hopefully they're good, but they were good at, so Allison talked about, colleagues that how they did some research, even though they weren't teaching at the same time. And so again, just trying to think about creatively and practically how to make things work together. And like Liza said, again, I'm quoting all of my people, work harder, or no, smarter, not harder. And then Gideon, just to bring everybody up, because Gideon also mentioned his question that maybe our group will get to on the next point is, how do you do that on top, if you're at an institution where you have to get tenure and promotion and things like that? So how do you also do these things that will be rewarded or honored, not maybe rewarded, but honored, and what you're supposed to do, if you're at an institution that has tenure and promotion. So anyway, I thought all of those were good points to make.
Thank you. Anyone like to comment on Jan's comment or have a different comment? I think is really important. And then oftentimes people write together as a result of their partnerships. And so that helps with the promotion and tenure. Other comments?
This is Jan again, if nobody, I don't want to, but one other thought too, I think, and Gideon spoke to this too, but I've seen my mentors model this also, like who in the, I don't want to say the game of promotion and tenure, but in that place that a lot of us live, like how do you balance, like if you're a full professor and maybe you don't necessarily need to be lead author on this publication, but you have, you know, junior faculty member, again, being equitable, but also helping younger faculty members be aware of what they need. So anyway, I've seen that in my own institution and had that modeled really well. I think by people who did that for me when we were working on articles say, you know, you really take the lead on this. I will support, you know, certainly be helpful, but let them take the lead if they need it. And if you're in a position at the moment that you don't need it, I think that's also a good way to kind of also help sustain, you know, the valuable work while also supporting and, you know, faculty who are coming through, you know, newer faculty coming through the system.
Nice, thank you.
I can share. Sorry, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Just from, and I made a sticky note about this, but from in North Carolina, Erica and myself both commented that just being able to have the statewide MTEP team has been really helpful for us to just be able to connect across our state. And I think we've tried to be really purposeful to make sure that we have good representation in our North Carolina team. And then being able to draw and connect to the other organizations like our NCTM affiliate and A&T affiliate and other math collaboratives has been really, really helpful.
Nice, thank you. And so given the time, we will not do our last question, but I'll just share all of the questions with you if you want to think about them later. So this is the whole list of questions. This is the whole list of questions if you want to think about them later. And now I really appreciate the discussion that has gone on. And we're really excited about the opportunity to expand our MTEP network to other institutions and really work closely together and learn from each other. And so now I'll turn it over to Gary or Brian. Oh, I forgot one more slide to connect this back to our driver's diagram. This is a part of the Outreach Hub's work. Our primary driver 4 focuses on scaling up and nurturing a national network of program NICs with the goal of recruiting and retaining 65 programs by 2025. And I think right now we have 19 partnerships. And how many programs do we have?
44.
44 programs. Okay, thank you. And then focus will be placed on expanding existing teams to include additional institutions with a special focus on historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, and other minority serving institutions. So we're really glad that you all came out to share with us today. And as I stated before, we have some announcements from Gary or Brian.
Brian.
So first, I want to just remind everyone here, which of something you probably very much already know, and it was mentioned, is that we do have a one-day meeting for the MTEP community that we do in partnership with the Get the Facts Out organization the day before AMTE. So we meet in person in New Orleans, but we also have some really wonderful structures to welcome people virtually, namely the Web Owls, which are a pretty amazing device. So we strongly encourage you to consider bringing members of your local team to join, even if they can only join virtually, for maybe a portion of the day or a conversation that you structure in the midst of the day or or something along those lines. Think about how the time might be an opportunity to bring people together. So we're still accepting registration, I think through January 27th. You see the link is there. Screenshot it real quick, grab your camera. But it's also in Canvas. Gary, was there anything to particularly add about the conference? I'm just trying to recruit people to come.
Nope, that was good.
All right, thank you. And Marilyn, go ahead to the next slide. I think you might want to advertise this one.
Okay, and then also this was kind of like a teaser, this NICCast for our panel that we'll have on Wednesday for the pre-conference. And the title of the panel will be Strategies for Forging Co-Equitable Partnerships Across Diverse Institutions. The panelists will focus on relationships between predominantly white institutions and minority serving institutions centered around secondary mathematics teacher education. Panelists will discuss relationships that have been forged and how they have been maintained, as well as challenges or concerns related to forming co-equitable partnerships. So we will have people who have relationships with tribal colleges represented, people who have relationships with Hispanic serving institutions and Hispanic serving institutions who have relationships with predominantly white institutions, as well as historically Black colleges and universities and PWIs represented in the panel. So it should be an interesting discussion.
Fantastic. And I have one last announcement looking forward. We will not do a NICCast during February. February is a full month for everyone already. We are looking forward to a NICCast in March or possibly April on the topic of working with our special education colleagues, both in our own universities and in our school districts, to better meet the needs of all students. Related, we are sort of launching into that also at the pre-conference. So on Wednesday from 3:30 to 5 after Marilyn's presentation, no conflicts. We have a session called Preparing Pre-Service Teachers to Support Students Receiving Services from Special Education and ELL Programs toward a Systemic Approach. That text right there is not yet updated. So if you go back to the slides in the future, you will see what that's about. But it's 3:01. We appreciate it. It's great to see everyone here. I'm sure we will see many or all of you in just a couple days, 2 weeks, in New Orleans or online.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
And thanks, Marilyn and Mohammed, for a great session. That was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone.